So, thank you, Deborah. I am so excited to be here with you. I've got to say, this is going to be a fabulous conversation. And how do I know that? Because, my friends, we already had a conversation, but with this wacky energy, we had some crazy stuff happen. And so we are starting over. And I got to tell you, I know that I'm meant to be here connecting with you because it's just this is what
So
happens.
much energy.
So much energy. So, my friends, you're in for a treat. Deborah brings no joke background in astrology. And I know you got the bio and you got a sense of her, but we are going to go deep into not just astrology, but also how it affects us and the planet and all that's happening. So, Deborah, thank you for being here today.
That's my pleasure. This has been so much fun already. I loved our first conversation. It went off to the ethers. Ooh, but I was on a roll. I was talking about things and I thought that was good, Deb. Because you know how some podcasts, this is Astrology 101. We have chemistry because we
Yeah.
both have moon and Aries. We both have a sun sign that's a rising that's air. And you've got Sag fire. So do I. I'm all fire and air. So the combustion just took the computer out. We don't mind.
We literally, I got a little note. I'm like, oh my God, she's writing to me. I feel like I'm in a vacuum in like this cosmic like space of like, what happened? I'm like, this. So I think paying attention to the energy, to what's happening in our world, in astrology. For those, why don't we start for a moment? Because those who don't know you, I know you've been doing this for quite a while. If I remember correctly, you're just at 50 years. 50 years. You're
I'll
not
be in 50
dabbling.
years in about 2 years. Yes, I'm heading
Wow.
towards 5 decades of studying astrology.
Yeah. Wow. For those who, might be maybe skeptical or just don't really understand the backing, this is, as you said, 4,000 years old, who may not understand the science of it, understand the fact that there is so much wisdom here. Maybe just we can start with a little bit like astrology 101. Bring us in.
Okay. So if you're a non-believer, that would indicate that you've got a strong left brain, and the left brain requires evidence. And the left brain spends a lot of time doing research and going to school and taking notes and learning numbers and making things really linear. And it's important. So the bus is on time and the planes leave on time. And without that left brain, uh-oh. But there's another facet to the brain, and that's the right brain. And that's intuition, and that's abstraction, and it's feelings, and it's things that make no sense at all. And astrology, while it is a left brain science, it's based on astronomy. It is actually based on where are the planets literally at the moment with a scientific indicator where they look at the sky, the moment of your birth, the city you're born in, and your birth date create a tattoo. It's like this thing that never leaves you, that stays with you throughout your whole life. That is a very hard science indicator of where were the planets. Now, the interpretation, that's the right brain. And we were just speaking to this about the invisible world gets undervalued to the left brain. The right brain knows there's feelings, there's spirits, there's intuitions, there's gut feelings that you can't live with the wet, funny feeling in your tummy. Even though it makes no sense on paper, you know that's the wrong relationship. Even though it makes no sense on paper, you can't take that job. So that's your intuition, right brain. That's where astrology really hits the ground because they use the left brain information, where were the planets, and they apply it to your soul, which nobody can put their finger on your soul. But when someone
Mm.
dies, it's not the personality you miss, it's their essence you miss. It's that quality of invisible factors that you can't describe. I so miss my dog. What is it? I don't know. I was in love. That feeling of love is right brain. So there's these two different facets. And boy, do people of my generation love the left brain and really cast out the right brain. Unacceptable to use your intuition. Don't cry, don't feel your feelings. It was all put down as though it were bad. So astrology is the marriage of the two worlds, of the left and the right brain. And it's a left behind science that passed the test of time because everyone you know knows their sun sign. Now, do we speak astrology in a very superficial way? I'm going to make it simple. The sun sign is your ego. It's your personality. It's the natural instinctual reaction that you have no control over. The moon is up at night. It's the inner world of the inside of your psychology that describes your emotional reactivity. Are you going to react by shutting down? If you're air and you cut off, your moon is fired, you act out when you get emotionally triggered because you've got fire? Do you start talking because it's air? Do you start cleaning because it's earth? The emotional body describes itself by the element it's in. And the third category is the rising sign. And that's based on the moment of your birth. And why do you think it's called the rising sign? Or another word is the ascendant? Because we're moving up into it as we move towards our higher self. And that's the goal of esoteric astrology, to take you out of your ego, which we can't stop. The silly little thing is incessant, to get you aware of your emotional body, because that's very dangerous if it takes over by shutting down or expanding. And the rising sign is what we call the observer. It's your higher self going, oh, I can see myself from a distance. And that is the gift of astrology, turning on the observer, activating your soul, giving you the level of consciousness that makes sense as compared to your ego, who's completely out of control. Everybody sees it. Raise your hand if you have an ego. Oh, look, everyone's raising. We got these stupid little egos. They never go away. Have you noticed?
Drop the mic. We could just stop right there. Yeah. That is, it's so funny. That could be its own show, Deborah, like on the ego. And, it's funny. I will just have to say side note, and maybe it's you said ego, that sun sign is really your personality, your ego. And of course, I'm joking because mine has that like fun, just want to have fun, the
Sagittarius.
Cyndi Lauper song, Girls Just Want to Have Fun. I'm like, oh my God, I literally feel, yes, you get it. And even the ego, it's funny. I've learned to talk to it and just, hey, you are about 4 years old and you want to protect me. You think you're doing the right thing, but we would not let a 4-year-old drive a car. That's how I see it. So it might feel fun, but get in the back, get in the car seat,
That's
get,
exactly how I teach it. Because if you let your
yeah,
soul drive in the front seat with your ego being
yeah,
supportive, you can't live without the ego. And
yeah,
how does that show up in our lives? It's the part that feels insecure. It's the part that does anxiety. It's the part that gets depressed. It's the part that feels like we're not okay, that we're so separate, that we can't figure out our career, that we don't really love our husbands, we should, that's all ego. It's got a million different voices. And the soul's like, shh, can't you just be quiet for a minute and listen to me?
oh gosh, again, another drop the mic moment. I'm so aligned with what you're saying, and I think and I'd love to talk about how astrology is showing this. I feel like we're in this really intense moment in the world, and it is literally like, are you going to let your ego drive, or are you going to let your soul drive? I kind of feel like if we were to bottom line it, I'm not sure that I'm right there, but it feels like that's what's happening.
100% right. The
Yeah.
problem with our society is we have been in a constructed a reality that's based on some principles like you have to grow up and be rich, you have to grow up and be thin, you have to grow up and be successful, you have to pretend you have kids that are perfect, you're supposed to not do drugs, you're supposed to not have all these constructs that were put in place based on the ego wanting to look normal, whatever that is, a setting on the dryer. What is normal? There's not one person listening to this that's normal. So that's the ego trying to fit into like a constructed concept. And then there's your soul going, you can't fit in, nor should you. And by the way, if we're being really honest, you're so vulnerable and
Yeah.
you're so tender and you're just so sweet and you're so vulnerable and so emotional. Why can't we let you be real? And that's the soul trying to be kind. But
Yeah.
we're based on ego. Our whole society's, you're so right. It's off kilter. And underneath the ego is the id, a psychological term for the unconscious underbelly that has all kinds of funny feelings like jealousy, like feeling
Mm.
so needing to eat because you feel so vulnerable. What do you think anxiety is? But the id going, I don't like it here. I don't like it here. I feel nervous. I don't know why. I don't feel like I fit in. All that unconscious material until it becomes conscious, until you can study your chart and figure out what are the sensitive spots that you're like, you have so much Scorpio, you're so deep, you cannot pretend, you just can't pretend.
No.
So eventually the feelings take over and you want to speak to the unspeakable and you want to penetrate the veneer, and they're like, Julie, what'd you ask that question for?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're just
Yes.
going to go blah.
Mm-hmm. Oh
And
yeah.
that's the id, that's the unconscious. Now if that gets suppressed for long enough,
Yeah.
you'll get depressed, you'll get suppressed, you'll get numb, you'll be addicted, you'll
Yep.
find yourself angry, and then people strike out with war. So that is the symptom of the unconscious mind twisted, contracted, and pushed on. And what is psychology and astrology supposed to do? Help us take a deep breath
Mm.
and accept the fact that, yes, everyone's slightly fucked up. I told you I wanted to write my book and call it You're Fucked Up and I Still Like You, but they wouldn't let me use that title. But everybody is. The nature of the human design,
Yeah.
and astrology says it. Your ego is driving the ship, to your point. Your emotional body is hoping to get a time. Like, can you just include me when you're with other people rather than being secretive all the time? And your soul is going, oh, if I could just help her remember why she's here and give her the gift of finding the right spot with the right people, she's going to be so much happier and be able to serve this planet. So, my job is to drive you all towards your soul,
Mm.
better known as
Wow.
your rising sign.
So I love just what you're talking about. And I think that for everyone listening, because we're all human beings, I mean, unless your pet is listening, you can't really ask your pet what they think. Not yet. Although if you can talk to your pet, tell me. I'd love to interview you. I don't have that ability yet. But my question for you, Deborah, or kind of a thought is, this larger idea that we're all these divine expressions, right? We're all unique expressions of the one, the divine. I don't care what culture, religion, spiritual, the common thread being we're all connected. We talked about that before, being connected. And yet we all have these unique expressions. And you can talk about this way better. One of the things I love about the little I've dabbled in astrology is, when you were born, as you were saying, the sun sign, your rising, like it's almost like these thumbprints, these astrological thumbprints, these maps that really help us. This is what I saw when I was so grateful to be on your podcast, which was so much fun, which is I don't believe in astrology, as you heard in the intro. That was so powerful for me. We talked about the whole psychic thing, and I was
In
like,
your chart, because you've got a grand trine in water.
geez, no wonder, but I've never used that word because I had all of these crazy human ego. Like, I can't say that. I didn't get a certification. I didn't go to Harvard for being psychic, like the crazy left brain. I grew up like next to Harvard. I'm like, no, 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 you got to go to a good school if you're going to be, psychic intuitive. I mean, that's the programming, the training. It was so powerful. I have known this my whole life. My best friend Meg has been saying this since we were 5. And to hear and understand it, it gave me permission. I haven't yet put it on my Instagram bio, but maybe I will after this episode.
Well, part of it is you've got 3 planets in water, and that is the indication. If you imagine, we talked about this, if you
Yeah.
flatten the sky and you saw a big triangle between 3 planets, it's so hard to understand. That would give you the gift of intuition. And now we're back to the right brain. And
Yeah.
now we're back to your famous question, like, what is astrology?
Yeah.
It's a left brain science that was brought to us by astronomers. You have to know this. Astrology is based in hard facts. The right brain is the intuition where someone feels something, they have a sense of something. In your case, it's very strong. For most people, that right brain faculty is not as developed as yours. So they are better at cooking and they are better at cleaning and they're better at doing spreadsheets and they're better at being able to organize. You're basically feeling people going into their psyche, untacking like all their knots. You're so good at being able to call people out and get them
Yep.
to their truth. Someone listening to this right now, you have a very specific skill set. Everyone does, to your point. Every chart gives us the blueprint or signature, as you said. It's their. I love that image. You put down your thumb and there's your thumbprint. That's your chart. It describes what you promised to do, and you don't have to believe it for it to be true because it believes in you. So we don't care
Mm.
whether you believe in astrology. It's been following you around since 4,000 years. It's in Egypt. It came to us through hieroglyphics. It has the power to liberate the parts of you that are interrupting your soul. And everyone's longing to be of value on this crazy planet, which is in such dire straits. We saw this coming. I mean, wait till 2025 and 2026. That's when we will have to break down the model of consensus reality that pretends we're normal, which is a setting on the
Mm.
dryer and has nothing to do with one person listening to this. There's nobody normal. Beep. So don't try to be normal. Now the question is, what is your unique nature that I could help you to remember what you came to do Is this the right career? Is this the right partner? Am I doing the right thing going to the school? Should I be studying this? Why am I so bored? Why am I so addicted? All of those are answered in the chart.
I've just got full body chills as you were speaking. And I think, I know you talk about astrology being like the medicine, being medicine. And that's really what I'm hearing. I mean, I experienced it. I'd had my chart read. I'd never had someone call that out. And this is for all of us. And we'll make sure we have your information, Deborah, because I know that you can do the chart, I believe, through you, and you have classes and courses and coaching. I mean,
And I
you're,
have certified astrologers. I do want to hear
yeah.
what I do. You're going to love this. Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. People send me their chart, and then I connect you to the perfect person because I don't do readings anymore. I connect you to the perfect person who will be able to read your chart. So that's one. And the other is you. I want you to come to the school. We have a school twice a year in January and in September. Hundreds of students, we've had thousands have gone through our school, and they are coaches that learn to use this medicine, as you said, to
Yeah.
be able to facilitate a very quick session. So if someone comes in and they've got a bad case of Virgo and they're criticizing themselves, and I look at the chart, I look at them, I go, oh no, I'm not listening to you. Your opinion of yourself is all skewed. You don't see yourself. And I am an astrologer that knows that. So you just be quiet and I'll tell you about you.
Mm. I love this frame. I love how you're using this left brain science that also weaves in the right brain. This to me feels like an integrative. It's integrative. It literally is. It's looking at us from a whole
Blending the two.
perspective. Exactly. You had said something when we were chatting before about the moon. And I also want to come back to 2025 and 2026. Do you not think I didn't hear that? I'm like, we're going to come back. I know I can hear my list. I can hear my audience. That's one of the gifts I have. I can literally hear questions. I just had someone say, the questions. I'm like, because I can hear you. So we're going to come back because I literally heard someone say, what about that now? But we'll come back. Let's go into the moon because I love what you were saying. And I don't know that most people understand this about the power of the moon.
Okay,
And,
don't you
and
think it's
this,
funny that behind your head is the moon? Look at
I
your picture
know.
on the wall. And isn't it funny that there's more poems written to the moon than any other topic in the world? In every
Mm,
culture, we write poems to the moon. So let's talk about it. Every day on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on TikTok, I do a video that describes where the moon is that day. So I'm encouraging you guys to begin to include, like the indigenous people did, like every old culture did, to look up and acknowledge that we are connected to that flavor. What does the moon do? It affects the waters on the earth. And in the farmer's almanac, they know every single day the rhythm of that flow. The same is true of women and their bodies. Every 28 days, we have a flow that's related to the moon. So, why would the moon, if it's affecting the water on earth, and I am all water, the earth is all water, why would it not be affecting you? So, to your benefit, it's so funny because I watch my own videos every day. I watch the video, I go, oh, so you and I were born with moon in Aries. Oh, today the moon's in Aries. And I say to myself, get up. We are going out for a workout. When the moon's in Taurus, the next day I say, oh, today we get a day off. So I literally follow the moon cycles. I
mhm.
incorporate that into my rhythm. And the next thing you know, magic begins because when I'm in sync and I'm being my real self and I'm no longer pretending and stuck in reality's consensus reality, but I'm actually doing Deborah's version, just like Julie, it's like when you left the marriage, when you changed your job, when you decided to go on the diet, when you decided to quit the addiction. That's astrological. That's a moment in time where the moon, the planets all said to you, Saturn return. 28 to 30, there's not a person in your audience that didn't get a wake up call, like a slap across the face. 58 to 60, hello, that's when my school started. I did not see it coming. I was like, wait, I'm going from being a healer and a psychotherapist to being a businesswoman with 50 women in my company, and I'm going to run it. But that was the destiny line that activated during my Saturn return. My moon in Aries said, I can do that. So there's an activation point in the chart that occurs for every single person. And once you learn the language, well, first of all, when you're all screwed up and you're worried during 28 to 30 and you think something's wrong with you, nothing's wrong. And at 58 to 60, when you start to have all these creaks and something's going on with your body, that's just a symptom of you saying, I got to change. Every 7 years, they call it the 7 year itch. Every 7 years, something happens astrologically that says, time to change. And I'm in one now, and I saw it coming, and I was hiding under the bed. But it doesn't matter if you're hiding under the bed, because you can be promised that
Mm.
the moon, particularly on a day-to-day basis, Saturn, the cycles are every 7 years, 28 to 30, 58 to 60. It's going to come and wake you up. Now, the gift of astrology is you're prepared. I knew it was coming. I hid under the bed, and then I went, Debra, get up. And sure enough, I'm writing a new book. I didn't know I would be writing a book, but here it came. And the book is I Don't Believe in Astrology.
That's awesome. Oh, I love it. I have full body chills as you're speaking. Because what just hit me is I did have this wake up call. There was literally what woke me up was the moon, the full moon above the bedroom window. When I explained that story on your podcast, it was the full moon that woke me up. It was so bright. I was 35, which is a seven. If I'm doing math right, 7 into 30. Yeah, it's a seven
From
cycle.
28 to 35. Yes.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because I'm realizing this year I'm about to get into is going to be the next seventh. If you
So
do
what's
the
important is you need an astrologer to answer that question. It's so interesting how you're picking up on this. You guys don't assume you know. Go get an astrology reading. If you're feeling like you're stuck, how many
yeah,
people raise your hand? If you're feeling like you're stuck, there are cycles that really promote. It's like all of a sudden you're going downhill as compared to walking uphill and feeling stuck. So
yeah.
yes, your moon woke you up. I love that so much. And the moon sitting behind you. And by the way, you're ruled by water. Your chart has more water, and that is the moon's influence.
Mm. I love this for all of us, just understanding the power of the moon for all of us. And of course, those with ovaries and those who don't were made of, I think it's what, 75, 80% water. We talked about
Yes.
that. So, hello, this is not just, oh, there's a full moon. Isn't that like all woo? No, 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 no. First of all, I redefined woo is wisdom of oneness. I did a whole thing on that. Isn't that great? I'm like, we're going to
Love that. I'm writing that
redefine
down.
that word. So I want to because I get messages sometimes from listeners, and I feel like we're all friends, soul brothers and sisters that are sharing about, life being challenging or stuck or things happening and, feeling like there's more going on than they understand. And I think what's awesome, what you're saying is there is more going on than you understand. And it's not going to be found in your left brain. This is not where we're going to be able to receive this information, even though there is science behind it. There is so much. I mean, just looking at the moon and the rhythms and the way the tides ebb and flow. I mean, this makes sense to me. And I think when you track it, I love what you said too, Debra. You live your life today by those rhythms. That is everything.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
think about the indigenous cultures that did not have wars and bombs and guns. And they lived on the land and they followed the four directions and they lived in a tribe where they took care of their kind and they tried their best to live in a very, generative, energetic, where they took the plants, they took the animals, they took the family members. And now we're so disassociated. What do you think this war is but the symptom of dark energies being suppressed for so long? And now they've gone wild. It's like a volcano just happened in the Middle East.
yeah. Well, I wonder just to me, one of the things, and I'm curious as we start to look ahead, because I know you mentioned 2025 and 2026, and just for everyone tuning in to have a sense of kind of what we know astrologically. The one thing it goes back to, I think what we said a few minutes ago, I always look at everything like, how is this reflecting what's going on with me? Where am I at war with myself? Where am I letting my ego drive? And I think there, for all of us, just really getting, and of course, getting into your astrological type can only help understand yourself. It feels to me like we are on this precipice where we could shift, we could shift this to having more
Oh, we're
peace
going
and
to shift this.
consciousness.
Excuse
All
me.
right,
We are going, your children
bring it in,
are,
please.
there's no question.
All right.
Everything has an expiration date. Everything.
Yeah.
You're not getting out of this alive,
Yeah.
period. So let's start there. That's a truth. And
Right.
in the process of evolution, things go in circles. They go like this. It's a spiral. It continues to move up, but it goes in circles. We are returning. I always tell everyone somebody pushed the wrong button in the time travel machine. We went backwards. Israel and Palestine are fighting again. And It will move through. You can be absolutely sure. We are opposite. We're dealing with suppressed emotions. And if
Right.
you want to change the world and you want to create a difference, you deal with your own suppressed emotions.
Yes.
You do cease fire.
Yeah.
I'm doing this in this weekend. I haven't had the time yet. All the people I've had an out with, I'm sending an email out that says ceasefire. I want to change the frequency in my system that has any resemblance of
Yeah.
war, even at the smallest level. Let me change that dynamic. But first of all, you got to do it with you and you.
That's right.
Like I have to write to people who did me wrong and say to them, ceasefire, I forgive you. I don't understand. I don't want to be friends, but I'm just acknowledging I have no edgy, I'm not holding on to violent energetics. 1 second.
Mic drop again. Debra, yeah, boom. I am so with you on this. I really feel this deeper call for all of us is exactly what you said is go seek in yourself and see where this strife, war, hatred energy is. It's something we can all do if we decide to. It's part of why, this podcast, right? Your You-est You, what you're really talking about, I believe, is connecting to your soul self, not the ego. The ego is not the
Bingo.
You-est You. Ego, I mean, it's part of it here, but we don't want that driving the bus for
Yeah,
sure.
your ego was this morning, picked out the earrings, decided to wear that little shirt, put on the makeup. That was all your ego. And look how cute she looks. Your soul gets the willies. Your soul gets that energy into the
Yeah.
body and goes, I love Deborah and all the weird shit that's going on in this interview. So there's a difference. You can't live without those little earrings. We can't live without the little necklace. That's your ego. Please don't disregard the ego. On the other hand, please don't disregard your soul. It's desperate to
Yeah.
take over your life. And the ego has got to be put as your point in the back seat or in the second. And when your soul, and how do you get to it? You find out how are you supposed to know your soul's urge? You are an Aquarius rising. You
Yeah.
came in to bring the future into place. You are a futurist. You are giving us access to understanding things that we wouldn't do if you weren't alive, Julie. You've given us
Mm,
permission to think differently, to ask the hard questions, to
yeah.
promote individuality. You're all over that. Mine is Libra. I'm here to create harmony and make beauty, and I like decorating, and I like little. So my ego and my little soul, they happen to get along because they're both air. So they both like to talk, and they both like to write, and they both like to teach. Thank God they're compatible. But some people's soul is fire. They came in to be wild, and their ego's water, and they came in to be quiet, and they're like, uh-oh,
Mm,
how am I going to navigate that conversation? That's what astrology's for.
mm.
Figure out your inner world to come to peace. Because if you have an argument going on inside your psyche, do not be surprised that the argument's going outside your psyche in the world.
100%. We've looked at that here. One of my favorite texts that I use is A Course in Miracles. I'm steeped in it, and literally we're talking about this from that angle. And this is now my soul is just doing a happy dance because she's like, this is awesome. We are talking about the same thing from different. This is what I love. So the astrology piece and getting really, like you said, you have amazing certified astrologers that can look at your chart and really see, okay, this seventh year is coming up. This is what we can see according to your chart. I mean, the little bit we did with mine was mind glowing, as I like to say. It was mind glowing. I had no idea the effect of water. And so each of us has this beautiful thumbprint, this beautiful map. We all do. We all do. That's what we're here for. That's the whole point. Frankly, that's what, this idea of your truest You-est You, that's it. It's actually so linked up with astrology. I never thought of it that way until this moment. Yeah.
And the
So
Course
cool.
in Miracles is one of my very favorite conversations because all it's doing is putting you to your rising sign. It's just driving you towards your higher self. It's giving your whole life
Yes.
over to your high. That's all I'm about. So if you're suffering or you're listening to another podcast and you're like, this is so interesting. No, you take this home and you eat it. You swallow those stars. They say we're made of stardust. Go get Starburst. I never thought of that before. Give yourself permission to open up your mind to the stars' influence in the name of peace. The
Yeah.
stars never argue. They're as consistent as they can be. They are absolutely trustworthy. We know the sun's coming up. We know the moon is moving in increments. It is the
Mm,
most oldest system on Earth. Why would we not refer to the system that gives us compassion and love, unless our left brain said, don't do that. Your dad said it's stupid. Who said it was stupid? My soul is longing for wisdom to soothe the dynamic in my psychology that creates war, even though it's not external. And that's a big word for the arguments you're having with yourself, but it's the same feeling. It's the same energetic.
Yes. Yes. It's interesting. Last night, I've never seen this from we have a big window in our bedroom. And for the first time, at least I noticed it. I knew I was going to be talking to you today, almost the full moon, not quite, but it was right in the center of this window. And I almost started crying. I was like, I have not seen the moon from my bed in years. I must have obviously fell asleep before I saw it other times. And I thought, this is going to sound, now I'm just getting all spiritual and sappy, but whatever. This is how I am. I thought of you and I thought of our conversation and I thought of everyone who's tuning in now or whenever they are. And I just felt this like warm, loving glow. I looked at the moon and I was like, thank you. You are going to be the star. I can just feel you. And it's hard to explain. It's like I just feel this love for this energy. It's
Well,
so
that's why it's on your
powerful.
wall behind
Yeah.
you, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And today it is a double water day, by the way. The sun and the moon are both in water today, just so you know, during this
Mhm.
interview. And we have had an incredible energetic exchange, starting with our whole thing going wild, how we got connected. So
Yeah.
never underestimate when energy increases and
Yeah.
things get bumpy or intense. Don't resist. Don't think it's wrong. You have to pay attention to those signs and go, oh, is this because I'm not supposed to do it? Or is this because there's so much energy building? I really need to pay attention that there's a convergence occurring. Your
Yeah.
angels and my angels were so excited. I saw your name on my schedule. I was like, this is going to be a podcast, because the invitation inside a podcast when you're listening right now is to take information in and let it change something in you. So if
Mm.
we've made a small adjustment to considering that your personality, your little character, your little earrings, your little outfit is got to be blessed by your soul. It's
Mm.
not enough to operate with the outer world. You must come to peace with the inside, and that takes war out of the equation. So now you've got to ask me the question, what about 2025 and 26?
26. Yeah. So anything you want to share about 24 since we're about to go into
Well,
24 soon?
this year continues to be Saturn in Pisces. So for all you Pisces out there, it's not an easy year for you, but it
Mm.
is creating a softness. It's like the war has begun. This is the beginning of the end, so to speak. It's a transition we're in. We're still in shell shock. No one can really talk about it. Climate crisis is real. No one can really talk about it. But by 2025, the moment 2025 arrives, Saturn enters Aries. And now it's obvious that we must make some changes. So we've got a reprieve in 2024. It's the end of the story. We're peaking. Even though the
Mm.
war is happening over there, we still have our phones, our internet, our beauty, our airplanes, our money, our jobs, our career. This is a very important year, 2024, to seize the moment, because we're in a peaking experience of the human condition. And then we start to come downhill. So you get a
Mm.
whiff of it with what's happening in the Middle East, what's happening in the Ukraine, what's happening in Somalia, what's happening in Afghanistan. There's so many places that are beginning to show us that the climate crisis, which is one of my favorite topics that I can't believe no one talks about, if we can't face reality, and you're a Sag, so you're built for this. If you can stand face to face with reality, with the Course in Miracles in your hand, astrology in your hand, the internal world navigated because you have faith. Why do I have faith? Because astrology is completely trustworthy. So when I did the first session with Julie on my podcast and she showed up with her sensitivity, she was like, it's life changing to find out that there's magic and it's real. Then
Mm.
we realized this is a movie. It's not to be mistaken with something's wrong. When a woman gives birth and you're in that room, you'd swear something is wrong. She's screaming, she's crying, she's been throwing up for months. She doesn't feel well, and then out comes a miracle. So don't you mistake something's wrong because something is being birthed. We just don't
Mm.
know what comes at the other side. We can't see. We didn't know. How will this world change? It will change, and there is an optimistic ending. I promise. God is not playing with dice. Einstein said it. It's not random. It's just very painful. And that's why you come to Earth. You came down here to see if you could navigate pain. How are you doing? Not one person listening to this has had suffered from a heartbreak, physical ailments, the death of something they loved. Every single human comes down here to let your ego go wild. And then your soul is waiting in the wings going, honey, you are not a mistake. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. The planet is going through birthing pains, and we are not to misinterpret this. However, it's important to cry. Do not neglect your sensitivity. This is my book, The Missing Element, the book I wrote. Please let yourself cry. I do it every day. The old Jews said this. You must cry for an hour every day with all you've got, and then spend the rest of the day in joy. But don't hold back the tears, water, air, listen to podcasts, study, read the books, come to the astrology school, get your brain Windexed so it still works and your fresh thoughts are coming and you're opening your mind. You're listening to Julie every chance you get. Earth, take care of your food, take care of your house, clean the garage, take care of your car. Do not neglect the earth realm as though it was a burden. It's a privilege to be on this planet. And then there's fire, orgasms, and dancing, and singing, and eating more, having alcohol, and getting high, and doing plant medicine. Woohoo! Don't leave out the fire element, she said, smiling over there. All four elements are required. You cannot live without water. You cannot live without air. You cannot live without food, and you can't live without that red blood beating through your heart. That's the fire. You cannot live without the four elements. And if you want the first step to learn about this, just go get the missing element. I'll send it to you with your chart in the book. If you order it from my website, I get your chart done, stick it in the book, and mail it to you.
Amazing.
Watch, watch.
Amazing. Drop the mic again. We've had like 5 of them. You know, I am so grateful for you, Debra. When we were having our conversation, that was so good. And then the energy was so bizarre. And I just thought, oh, there's a lot of power going on here. We're going to move on to a different platform. That's what we're doing. And both of us were like, yep, we're doing it. And I love this analogy. I mean, I've had 2 kids and it did look like a crazy murder scene for a little bit. And what comes out are 2, are human beings. So I love that reminder. There's nothing wrong. Not to say there's not pain and trauma and sadness.
Pain.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not what we're saying. But what we're saying is in the macro, that there is a divine
Order.
creator order going on here. Exactly. That we cannot see what is going to be birthed. Something new is coming through. We are probably right now in the throwing up phase, is what I'm guessing.
Exactly.
6 months, 5, like, yeah, somewhere in
And
that
that brings
gestation.
us to 2025 and 26 when Saturn enters Aries and the physical reality begins to reflect without a
Yeah.
mystery that there is a change of order and there is conducts that need to be there has to be some rules put in place of how we're going to treat each other. But
Yeah.
at this moment, we're still dealing with a wild, crazy pretend game. We're in the pretend game right now. Once Saturn enters Aries in 2025 and 26, that's where we're like, oh my goodness, this is a real thing. And then it goes into Taurus, and now we're changing the earth. We're taking care of the earth. We're realizing we can't consume like we consumed. There will be a change, but right now we're still in la la. Well, that Middle East took us out of la la.
Yeah. I am so grateful for you, for the work you're doing, for this reminder that for all of us listening, that we all have our soul is waiting in the wings. I love that. Like holding the flowers, waiting for us to come off stage and be like, I'm here. Come on, let's do this. Let's dance together. And through astrology, through using your chart to really understand
I want
yourself.
you to take the class. You would be the best cheerleader. I'm going to give you this podcast hosts get the special rate. Just
Thank you,
in
Debra.
January, it's only once a week for 6 weeks. It's
So
on Zoom.
fun.
There's only 10 people in the room. It's very hands-on. You study your chart. It's not theory. It's not woo-woo or a little woo-woo, but it's actually looking at a screen with your chart. I want Julie in the class.
We will talk later, Deborah. I see it. I think it'd be so fun. And we've got our new definition of woo woo now. It's wisdom of oneness. So there you
I got to
go.
write that down.
I know. I think it needs to be what I write about next. Because I keep hearing woo woo and I'm like, wait a minute. It's like the right brain, right? It's just, and I get it. We live in the left brain world, but it's changing. Now we have this information. We are changing. We are moving into a new Saturn. So everybody, you heard it here. Saturn in 2025 goes into Aries. And then the following year into Taurus, where we get into Earth, which is awesome. That sounds good to me.
I love that story. But in the meanwhile, we're just waking up out in the dream. It's in
Yeah.
Pisces, and we're going, what is going on? So, good
Yeah.
news is we're waking up. And thank you, Julie, for assisting us in waking up.
Oh my gosh. Well, as you said, I can't help myself. I can't even not do this. This was the wake up call I had at 35, and I listened, and I'm almost a year away from 50. So, this is what it's for. This
Wow.
is what, yeah. And I think your passion, God, you have all of the elements. I just can feel it. And your desire to bring more harmony and peace and for this medicine to get in the world. Everyone, listen up. You-est You, soul brothers and sisters. I'm going to have all the information, Debra's information. Make sure that you get her book, The Missing Element. You can get your chart. You check out all of her things. She's got such amazing programs and courses and just has a huge heart, which I always love. So Debra, thank you, thank you, thank you. This was cosmic and soulful, and I'm grateful.
Me too.
And I want to thank you, beloved listener. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You know this. I hope you know this, that both of us are here because we really hope to usher in a new, as Eckhart Tolle says, a new earth that is connected to all of our souls that we're living in as connected to our souls, which I call being in your U.est You. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all that you're doing to not only be your U.est You, but to love and honor your U.est You, just like you would in a marriage. Marry yourself, marry to your soul. And I hope that you found this conversation to be uplifting and life changing. Lots of love. My friend, I'm so grateful and honored to be here with you on your journey and being your U.est You. Thank you for watching this episode, for being part of this incredible community and this mission to really step into your light, to your highest purpose. I believe that as we all do that, we all can really be our best selves and uplift consciousness in humanity. So thank you. I also wanted to say that if you are looking for greater support right now, maybe you're having a health concern or you're looking to really step into that next version, best version of yourself, please come connect with me, whether it's for more resources or coaching or guidance. I would love to support you in any way that I can. Just go to juliereisler.com. You can book a powerful one-on-one breakthrough session there. You can connect with me. I would love to meet you. I'd love to hear how I can be on this journey with you. And before I forget, if you'd like a little more of this good vibe tribe and would like to digest these episodes with a high vibe community, just go to Facebook and look up the You-est You podcast community. You'll find us there. Love always. And thank you so much for taking the time and energy to truly stepping into your authenticity and being your You-est You.